For my presentation, I wanted to discuss how the second wave of feminism helped to change the Constitution of the United States after World War II. As we know, during World War II, women were expected to not only keep up with their domestic responsibilities, but also to help pick up the slack for men who had gone off to fight in the war by filling their positions in the workforce. And we've discussed in some detail over the last few weeks how women helped to aid the war effort by either working in factories or as nurses. And although women weren't allowed to occupy actual combat positions, they were often in harm's way because they did serve on Navy ships or could be assigned to aid stations that were either in or near a combat zone. And here is a list of figures that I put together to give you an idea of how many women served in the military during World War II. And this is just American women here that we're taking into account. As you can see, more than 250,000 American women served during the war, but they were only considered civil service workers. Their military service wouldn't be recognized officially until the 1970s. Now, after the war ended and all the fighting men returned home, the majority of these women were expected to quit their jobs and relinquish any career aspirations that they may have had and return to a life of domesticity. Now, the reason this upset them is because the way they saw it, they had fought long and hard to be seen as equals and believed that their contributions to the war effort should be rewarded by receiving equal rights as men, which didn't happen right away. And one woman in particular who was outraged by this inequality was a woman by the name of Alice Stokes Paul, who you can see here in this photograph. In the early 1900s, she led a campaign to fight for the 19th Amendment, which we know prohibits any United States citizen from being denied the right to vote based on their gender. Not only did she help with that, but Alice also helped to organize a women's suffrage group known as the Silent Sentinels, who protested at the White House. The main reason I wanted to discuss Alice is because she played a large role in protecting the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which helped to prevent sex discrimination. She also proposed the Equal Rights Amendment to the Constitution in 1923, although it wasn't passed by both houses in Congress until 1972. In order for this to be passed, 38 states had to vote yes, but at the time only 35 did vote yes. And believe it or not, this is still in motion today. The amendment hasn't actually been passed yet, but most states have included it in their state constitutions at this time. And then next I wanted to discuss Betty Friedan, who we've talked about quite a bit in the last few weeks, author of The Feminine Mystique. We've also read quite a bit about her in the last few books. Her book received so much attention nationwide that even the president took notice. It was after her book was published that he released a report on gender inequality. Now, Betty's leadership of the feminine movement led to the following legal victories that I have listed here. The first one is the Affirmative Action Act for Women, which means that it's illegal to have sex-segregated help-wanted ads. Next, Title X, which is meant to help low-income families receive medical attention, specifically for healthy childbirth. After that, she helped with Equal Credit Opportunity Act, which protects against creditor discrimination on the basis of sex, marital status, age, race, or religion. Then the Pregnancy Discrimination Act. This one prevents discrimination on the basis of pregnancy, childbirth, or other medical conditions. Then we have the illegalization of marital rape. Now, this law was put into effect to protect victims of non-consensual sex or domestic violence. Then we had Reed versus Reed. I actually hadn't heard of this case before until I started to research this. The Reeds were a married couple living in Idaho, fighting over an estate which belonged to a child of theirs who had passed away. Now, they resided in Idaho, which gave preferential treatment to men in situations like theirs, and so the husband was automatically awarded the estate. However, later on, the Supreme Court overruled this decision on the basis of unconstitutional sex discrimination. And finally, we have Roe versus Wade, which involved a Supreme Court ruling on a woman's right to have an abortion. Now, in conclusion, I just wanted to say that I believe if it hadn't been for the second wave of feminism and the brave acts of women such as Alice Stokes Paul and Betty Friedan, that women in America would not have the freedom and equality that we enjoy today.